It began in a bustling market square, where the air was thick with the scent of spices, the chatter of merchants and the occasional cry of a street performer trying to draw a crowd. Among the chaos, a single shoe lay in the middle of the cobblestone street. It was a simple shoe, worn leather with a scuffed sole and a faded buckle, but something about it seemed out of place. No one noticed it at first. People walked around it, too busy with their lives to stop. But by midday, it began to draw attention. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, crouched beside it. He reached out, brushing his fingers against the leather, then looked around. "Who lost this?" he muttered, but no one answered. The boy picked up the shoe and carried it to a fruit vendor. "Did someone leave this here?" he asked. The vendor shook his head. "Leave it be, boy. It's just a shoe. Nothing special." But the boy didn't think so. He tucked the shoe under his arm and wandered off, unaware of the chain of events he was about to set in motion. The boy wandered toward the edge of the market, where the crowd thinned and the noise faded. As he walked, a tall man in a dark coat approached him. The man's face was partially hidden beneath the brim of a wide hat, and his eyes seemed to pierce right through the boy. "Where did you get that shoe?" the man asked, his voice low and gravelly. The boy hesitated. "I found it." "Why?" The man knelt, his face level with the boy's. "That's not just a shoe. It belongs to someone important. Someone who's lost their way." The boy blinked. "How do you know?" The man smiled faintly, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Because I've been looking for it. And now that I've found it, I think it's time for you to give it to me. What would you do in this moment? Trust the stranger or run? Share your thoughts, your decision could change everything." The boy clutched the shoe tightly. Something about the man felt wrong. Dangerous. He shook his head and turned to run, the shoe still in his grip. The boy weaved through narrow alleyways, his heart pounding. He could hear the man's footsteps behind him, steady and relentless. He didn't dare look back. He turned a corner and slipped through a gap in a fence, emerging in a quiet courtyard. A fountain gurgled softly in the center, and an elderly woman sat on a bench, knitting. The boy rushed to her. "Please," he gasped, holding out the shoe. "Do you know who this belongs to?" The woman looked up, her eyes sharp despite her age. She set her knitting aside and took the shoe from his hands. "Oh," she said softly, turning it over. "It's begun again." The boy frowned. "What's begun?" But before the woman could answer, the man in the dark coat appeared at the edge of the courtyard. His eyes locked on the shoe in the woman's hands. "You shouldn't have interfered," the man said, his voice colder now. The woman stood, holding the shoe tightly. "It's not your time, and it's not your choice. This shoe will find its rightful owner." What do you think the woman means by "it's begun again"? Leave your theories in the comments. I'll feature the most interesting ones in a future video. The woman handed the shoe back to the boy. "You must take this to the bridge at the edge of town," she said. "Place it on the second stone from the left. And whatever you do, don't look back as you leave." As the boy journeyed to the bridge, strange things began to happen. The streets grew quieter, the air heavier, and people seemed to glance at the shoe with a mix of curiosity and fear. When he reached the bridge, the sun was setting, casting a golden light over the river below. He found the second stone from the left and placed the shoe carefully on top of it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the air shimmered, and a figure appeared. The figure was a young woman, dressed in tattered clothes but standing tall and proud. Her eyes were bright, and when she looked at the boy, she smiled. "You found it," she said softly. "Thank you." The boy stepped back, startled. "Is this yours?" She nodded, picking up the shoe and slipping it onto her foot. As soon as she did, her appearance began to change. Her clothes mended themselves, her hair smooth, and a golden light surrounded her. "I've been waiting a long time for this," she said. "You've done more than you know." Before the boy could respond, the woman placed a hand on his shoulder. you said things right. The shoe has power, but it's not the shoe itself, it's the choices we make when we find it. Remember that. What choices would you make if you were the boy? And what do you think the woman meant about the shoe's power? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The boy returned to the market square, feeling as though he'd woken from a dream. But the world seemed different now, brighter, somehow. He never saw the woman again, nor the man in the dark coat. But he often thought about the shoe and the strange journey it had taken him on. Years later, as an old man, he told the story to his grandchildren. And as he spoke, he noticed a pair of shoes sitting by the door, simple, worn leather with scuffed soles and faded buckles. And he smiled, knowing the story wasn't over yet. Every story has its own mystery and lesson. What do you think is the moral of this tale? Drop your interpretation in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you next time.